Hey everybody, good afternoon. Hey, how are y'all doing? Seeing a lot of people joining. Happy Friday to everybody. Yeah, back at it again. I'm Therese Nelson. Here on Black Food Folks for another Friday. Um, I'm super excited. Today I'm going to be talking to Lexis Gonzales. She's the chef and owner of Lady Lexi's Sweets here in East Harlem, and just super excited to sort of talk to someone, sort of standing her ground here on the East Side, about Harlem. People have their own imagination about Harlem and don't really think about the East Side a lot. Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing so well. How you doing?
Good.
So, like I was saying, Lexis Gonzales, super brilliant young chef here in East Harlem. Super excited to talk to you. I know you have a lot going on, and I want to get to one of the main reasons why we're talking. But I would love it if we could just get into your career and your work because it's so. There's I don't think we talk to enough. We don't talk to people from the East Side enough. You know what I
We
mean?
don't.
Um, so I want to start off just giving you sort of room to sort of talk about your upbringing because you're from Harlem, right?
Yeah. Yes, I am from
Yep.
Harlem.
So
Yep.
just talk a little bit about being from Harlem, especially being from the East Side, and just what that's like because it's so interesting.
It's different. Okay, so I'm okay. I was born and raised in Harlem. We My grandmother lived here my whole life. We might have took like a little hiatus. We moved to the Bronx, but we still stayed here. For the most part. So, but only a couple of years, which is funny because everybody asks me that. I'm like, yes, technically for a couple of years, but never left the place that we have here. So we still have the place here, of course. And then when I got out of college, then I moved back on my own, like on my own place. So now, just like, so I've been in Harlem my entire life. I've seen it transform from when I was a kid till now, how much different it's been. From being a consumer to an entrepreneur, that's a big difference too. So that's been something that's been like, I don't know. It was a rude awakening for like something for having a business in East Harlem. So that was definitely different. I thought that by opening up a bakery in East Harlem, it would just be like automatic. People would just come because we didn't have George's Bakery anymore. I mean, if you guys are from Harlem, you would know George's Bakery as this amazing glazed donut place that was right down the block by Con Edison on 125th Street. And you would go get a nice hot glazed donut. And if you catch it early enough, you get a sheet of brownies, one of the piece of brownies. But yeah. So that's what I thought, when I came to Harlem.
Yeah.
So I thought I would have this nice business and everybody would like flock to it. But that was kind of the opposite. There were a lot of days where, it would be empty. And there were days where I didn't know where I was going to get my next customer. There were days when they were pretty fruitful, but those were people that weren't even from my neighborhood. So that was another thing that was, they were great. They were happy to see it. But to sustain, I needed the support of, the immediate community, I would say. And, but then I would say that was 2020 now? Wow. 22, wow, look at that. 2013, because my son was born 2 weeks after I opened up a shop. So 2013 is when I opened up the shop. And I just knew that it was just different, like social media, everything, like how even like online shopping in 8 years is a total difference. And people were like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, making your own website and all that stuff, it was there, but it was like archaic, or you had to know coding still. Even though it was 2012, 2013, you still had to know some type of coding to get a good website.
Yes.
So even that type of thing, like making my presence known and those things, that was very difficult. But with things like Harlem Meetup and other places that have helped me out now, I've definitely been able to succeed and meet other people outside of Harlem. So yeah, it definitely has helped.
So I know we jumped in really quickly, and I wanted to. I want no because I wanted to start there because I think that it's a really particular level set, right? I think a lot about like I'm from North New Jersey, but I've lived in East Harlem for about 12 years, and it's an interesting thing to sort of contextualize Harlem as this sort of epicenter, right? Like its presence in Manhattan as this sort of other thing, this kind of different borough, this sort of this feeling that is other than the
Mm-hmm.
island, but also the cultural legacy that exists up here is insulated in a way that is beautiful but important to be clear about. And I would love it if you could like, I mean, there's something also I want you to talk a little bit about how you kind of came to food, but this is kind of African American, Latin, diasporic fusion that happens uptown. And on the east side,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the Latinx and sort of Spanish Harlem, sort of East Harlem, this kind of insulated, really beautifully preserved jewel box in the sort of tapestry of Harlem exists in this way where you have legacy. You talked about some, but like legacy bakeries, especially, but you know, where you located, like right the Marquette East is like all like the barrio, like all of those restaurants that sort of have been around for so long. You kind of come in as this kind of youthful, modern, like modern manifestation of that legacy, right? Like you kind of are the baton passes, the continuity of baton pass is kind of preserved when you open the business. And really, it's kind of scary times. So I would just love if you could talk a little bit about maybe the responsibility of that legacy and what you kind of felt in terms of choosing this to sort of open in your neighborhood.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was only 22 when I decided to open up Lady Lexis Sweets. I had already been catering. I was married then, and so I had a little bit more stable. I had a stable environment, so I wouldn't say that I wasn't making like all the money because, as chefs, we do not make all this money you guys think we make. But yes, just doing catering, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna open up a bakery because I feel like my neighborhood needs a bakery. When I go to 116th Street, because I was right on 124th in Madison. When I go to 116th Street, I get the cuchi frito, I get the bizcocho, so the cake, I get all the places, the panaderia, and then I come here, literally 5 blocks over, 8 blocks over, and I'm nothing. I mean, of course, make my cake West Side, doing it great for the West Side things and everything. But then when you came back here, I was like, okay, so there's literally nothing. We have nothing. So I'm like, well, maybe I need to create something. I never thought of it as, well, maybe there's nothing for a reason. I thought of it was maybe somebody didn't take the first step. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna take the first step. I'm gonna do it. And my mom supported me a lot. I was like, well, let's go for it. Why not? And I started actually selling cookies on a card table outside of my apartment. So that's how it really started.
Oh,
Outside my apartment building at a card table right downstairs. And I was pregnant with my second boy. And then my youngest son was like running around sometimes. My nana would come help me. And so I thought that it was my duty to like create that for them. Like I had George's, I had Wimps, I had all these other places that were here for me as a kid. And those people died. Like those people left and there was nobody else to take it over. So like why wouldn't I be the one to bring that back? It was and at first it was very hard. So it wasn't easy, but I'm always self-motivated. So I'm not gonna complain. I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna push forward and I'm gonna be happy about it. And tomorrow's a new day. But there were some days I was just like, what did I do? Like, why would I want to do this? Who wants to be here and not make money? But I was like, you know what? It's okay. Tomorrow's a new day, and tomorrow I'm gonna make something, and somebody's gonna walk in this door. I would go outside, give out free samples. I went around to the entire Harlem, gave out samples to all the businesses, and just let them know that I was there. I would give out flyers, and eventually I built a cart. So I built a portable cookie cart. So I was like, well, like if people have an ice cream cart, I mean, a cookie cart can't be so bad. Who wouldn't like a cookie cart? So I built it myself with my stepdad. He helped me build it. And it was so funny because even like the handle, we like makeshift it was a towel rack because I realized that it was the same way, like the
yeah.
ergonomics was good. So we made that. And I would go around town and literally give my sweets to people. Like give them out, and then sell them too on the cart. So you get milk and cookies from this cookie cart, which was really dope. So yes, people actually know me from pushing that cart around. So they thought I didn't have a shop, but I'm like, no, 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 go to the east side. Like, so I will walk to the west side.
That's
I will
right.
walk down to, if you guys know Harlem, I will walk to 110th between 160 to 110th. Then I will come back around all the way like to Lenox, go down Lenox, then come back up 8th. Like go uptown. I've been uptown so far. It's like 137th Street. Go to 8th Avenue, come back downtown, and then come over. So you know that's a walk. That was it wasn't like an easy thing. Yes, I was on Lenox Avenue a lot of days giving out cookies. So yeah, I just thought that it was something that I needed to do.
But I guess, and I know I certainly will move on, but I don't want to put too fine a point on it. But I mean, honestly, that framework is not atypical, right? Like you would have grown up seeing all of these, especially women, like on the barrio, like with their cars, selling all man, and so the sort of entrepreneurial spirit is sort of implanted, is embedded in the images that you're seeing, right? Like I think we sort of joke about like the churro lady on the subway, like how the churro's hot on the subway, but like there is, or just spring and summer is breaking when you see like the icy cars, and you just that there's this idea about getting out into the streets and sort of taking your product to the people, and it's sort of brilliant to see that kind of spirit infused into someone so young. I don't know, it's so cool to watch because it's not just a fad, right? It's smart marketing. It's you get people, especially
get out there, make it colorful. I had a chalkboard on the front. I was like, I can change the menu every day. Then I had a bottom where I had the milk. I had a cooler in the bottom, so I had the milk in the cooler. And then you could just we could pour. So I would make this stuff right there. So I would pour them some milk and then give them a cookie. And it was I was like, yo, this is dope. Mind you, this is before this out. What's funny is my mom and I were laughing the other day because we said, look at this outdoor dining. We were like before our time. We were pushing a cart. Who knew? Right. Forward thinking like that cart would be something that would really be needed, like especially like a time like this where we just need like something quick outside and open for people to just enjoy easily and still get that same feeling that they feel when they go inside the store.
Yeah. There's also something really interesting because I don't think people really there's something so, especially, I don't know if you have the same experience in other boroughs, but there is something really hyper local about Manhattan where like your 2-street, 1 to 2 block radius, that's your neighborhood, right? Like, so even if there's a bakery outside that radius, like if it's not in that to your tight knit like neighborhood of a radius, it doesn't really exist for you. And so your point about, you have those legacy spots, but in your direct neighborhood there was nothing, so you had to sort of serve a purpose directly. It's so cool. So I would love if you could give a little bit more into your heritage, because I know you have a connection to Charleston and sort of the Low Country, and I just think that migration pattern it holds so true, right? Like Sylvia Woods comes from sort of central South Carolina area, but that whole like South Carolina from the coast into like central of the state, that whole contingent all came to New York. They all came they all sort of settled in Harlem, New York, New Jersey, like that sort of Staten Island. They all, you see generationally, like they all kind of settle here. And I would love if you could talk a little bit about that part of your heritage, because I know it shows up in your work a lot.
Yeah, so it's funny you said that about how we lived when we moved up here, because I was listening to Dapper Dan's book. I like audible books. It's just easier when I cook, I can listen to a book. So when I was listening to his book, he talked about how his family and literally everybody from his neighborhood, when they moved from down south, they moved up south, they almost to the same block. So they all were like, they knew each other. And so when my grandmother came up here, they first were in Edisto Island. So that's the Gullah Geechee Islands along the coast of South Carolina. The closest city to them was Charleston. So they came to Charleston. So on their birth certificate, I believe it still says Charleston because it's the closest city, and that's where the records are. But when you look at the slave map, which I looked it up actually, it'll say Edisto Island on the census So you'll see them in both ways, which is really cool. I was looking up like my great great grandfathers to see the lineage and who was the person that owned the land before we got the land. So we were just checking that out, and we went back as far as I think 1880 or something like that. That's how far we got back.
Nice.
So it's really, yeah, it was really good. But yes, so we got that. So they're from Charleston. My grandfather is from Charleston as well. So they met in Charleston and then they moved to New York. So her whole family was down there, but her cousin came first. And then what they did was they brought her up here to babysit. And then she never went back. They just literally gave her for opportunity. They gave her a job. She came up here and they all lived in the same area. So I think when they first moved here, they moved to the Bronx and then they found Harlem as a little bit easier. They like moved there and then they found Harlem because I think they moved for the houses first, when they first got up here not knowing.
Yeah.
Then they moved to like these local tenements over here. So a lot of them that's over here, we all came from the same home. So literally our whole family lived in the same building I'm in right now. I live in the apartment my cousin lived in when she first moved here. So, and then my mom moved in this apartment. My mom and dad moved in this apartment, and then I moved in this apartment when I got to be older. So it's the same apartment we all have lived in. So it's pretty cool. And the culture there is just so rich. I didn't realize how much it meant to people until I got older. Because that's my regular home. So it was funny because actually in The Rise, Marcus Samuelson's latest book, the picture in the book of Charleston is actually my grandmother's house. So I didn't know. So I'm opening the book and I'm like, wait a minute, that's my grandmother's house. Like literally right in there. That's her wall. It's her facade. I was like, so we would eat crabs right there on the porch. Like that's where we would just chill out. You go get a bushel of crabs, throw it in the pot. Everybody come on the porch. I'm the only one that eat most of the crabs because nobody want to crack them. So I'll eat the crabs and they eat the shrimp. And then we would sit there and just have a good time. So bringing that food that I eat when I was a kid to like everybody else was really dope because people associate us with more like fried chicken and everything. But what I learned this year was actually fried chicken was because of the migration. So it wasn't necessarily because they were frying it all the time. It was because when they were taking the long trips to come to New York, it was the only thing that really stayed well long. So like that's where deviled eggs and fried chicken and all those like smoked meats came into play. So I was like, oh, that's really cool, interesting, fact because it's what we've been known for, but it was for a reason. So just letting people know those reasons is pretty dope.
100%. I think the interesting thing that we sort of seeing chefs do more of is take responsibility for stewardship of those traditions. So your point about like the fried chicken, 100%, right? Like me, Anna Lewis told us in Taste Country Cooking that fried chicken wasn't an all year kind of thing, right? It's the preciousness of the chickens you're gonna kill to use that much protein for one dish, and just these sort of frameworks that allow us to sort of add more rigor to the work we do and sort of do the work of translating to people who and what we are through the food we cook, right? Excuse me. I love that you talked about that kind of like historical memory or sort of like that generational memory, because I think a lot of what your work, at least from what I can see, is sort of about carrying those traditions forward. Like once you know or sort of remember like those remembrances, if you can translate that into a dish, then you kind of become I don't know, it's teaching in some ways, but you become like the translator of those traditions to kind of keep them alive. And so I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the choice to go into food. Like, I don't know whether you had family that was ever in the food industry or whether it was just a bug that kind of hit you, but I know you sort of shifted focus when you were in college to sort of change over into a culinary degree. And I mean, it's a really particular, I think we all kind of have our story of like the call and the moment we get the call in to come to this work, but I would imagine it was a really particular moment for you.
Yeah, so what happened was, I know right here, that's a good story happened. What had happened was, so when I was in Baruch, it's funny because food has always been a part of my life. So let's start there. food is just something that we all came together and did. So like with my Nana's side, which is my Puerto Rican side, where the Boricua Geechee comes from, we would all come in the house Sunday. You could smell the sofrito coming out the door. There's fried chicken going on. There's French fries and there's rice. So it's everything. You got a lot of starch. It's sancocho because my grandfather makes sancocho on Sundays. And then there's a bunch of little kids running around the house. And then the adults are like in the room. So that's like, those are like my earliest memories, like the arroz con gandules, smelling through the house. Everything is like, you could just smell it. And then things like when my mom would make okra soup and I would hate it. You know, those were things where I was like, I hate okra. Why would she make this? It's so slimy. It's gross. And I hated it. And now it's one of my favorite dishes. So I think what happened was when I got to be older, I always wanted to create that same memories that I had around food for my friends. So I was like, you know what? This might be good if I say, make some food for my friends to come over. I was like, let's come and eat. Let's have something. Anytime they were like, oh, let's do a night. I was like, and especially when we're under 21, we're like, we can't go nowhere. Let's go. And there wasn't any teen clubs or anything like that at that point. They had closed down. We would come to my house, and then we would go to my friend's house, and then I would cook. So I would always make mac and cheese, some red velvet cupcakes, and some other stuff. That was literally what I would make. I would just make mac and cheese all the time. And, you know, I never thought about it as a profession until people started like paying me for it. So for me, it was more the event side, putting it together, than it was the cooking side. I just liked how people felt when they ate. I just like that they felt happy. I like that they were able to talk. We were able to feel comfortable when we ate. So that's the kind of thing that I was thinking about when I wanted to do my next step. I'm going to school for accounting, and I realized I'm bored out my mind. I love math, but I'm bored. And I said, you know what? I said I can always come back and be an accountant, but let's see what I can do in college that will help me like put myself in the right rooms that I would need college for. Because that's what you use college for, to put yourself in the right rooms, to be the right people. So I said, well, let me go to school for event planning. So when I look, they don't have it. They're like, no, you have to go to school for cooking, and then you can minor in event planning. I said, okay, cool, that's not a problem. That means I could be the boss. Like I can know how to cook. I know the front end, I know the back end. They can't tell me nothing. I know what to do. So that's how I thought about it. But little did I know when I would go to school that it would make me so happy to cook all the time. Like I wouldn't be, you know, it was something like, it was effortless. And because it was something I just loved to, I like to eat. So I was just like, okay, whatever. Like I like to make what I like to eat. So then it just came, and then my teacher was like, well, you know what? You're really good at dessert. You should definitely think about keep going. So I take patisserie. If you guys are familiar with culinary school, patisserie is like when you start to make your own croissants by hand. You make all these millefeuille, where you make the layered cakes and all these other fancy things. I was in a cake decorating contest where we won first place, I think, or second place for the first time ever making a cake. Like we didn't beat City Tech, but it's okay because I went to City Tech the next year and we got first place. So it worked out. I graduated from City Tech afterwards. I went to Kingsborough first and I went to City Tech afterwards. So it was just those moments of like creating food. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just do this. Pick something out the hat. Like I tell people, your calling is pick something that you like the most right now and figure it out later. If it don't work, at least you try. Like how they say, the old saying is, it's better to have love than to never love at all. It's like that.
I would also love it if you, yes to all of that. And I choose to ask the question because I think there's also this sort of tangential conversation that happens a lot around the value of culinary school, or sort of its efficacy, or sort of using it as a tool. And I think it really kind of comes down to what you're talking about, right? To sort of seeing the end goal of where you kind of want to go, and whether or not the tools you're going to accumulate over your time are going to be in service to that goal, right? And so I would love it. I don't know if you if you want to talk about this at all, but I love that you utilize city colleges, like City College and all the sort of the sort of community colleges. I think there's such innovation happening in these spaces. I mean, there's, again, you grew up in New York, right? So you had ICE, you had CIA, you had other, like, local options. And And I would love if you could talk a little bit about, I mean, just I'm sure that from everything from cost to innovation to like dexterity of like the kinds of programs you'd be able to take. Because I mean, again, event planning probably was not going to be available at some of the other schools that were larger. Talk about the
Mhm.
choice to sort of go that route because it's so interesting.
So I was already at Baruch. So when I started looking for schools, I looked within the CUNY system first. I did look at CIA, I did look at French Culinary Institute, but what I was thinking was, you know what? In the event that this doesn't work out, I need a degree because I was like, I need to make sure that I can teach it because I wanted to teach all the time. So I was like, my mom's a teacher, my dad was an electrician, so you guys know my background. So that was something I was like, you know what? Even if I never thought it wouldn't work, but I said while it's working, I need something else that can work too. So that's what I was just thinking. Like if I have two things at the same time, then that would benefit me. And the only way I could teach is if I have a bachelor's. So that's why I was like, well, I can't go to French Culinary Institute because they're not going to give me a bachelor's. And if I go to ICE, I'm gonna come out my money I'm gonna come out pocket a good amount of money. So I was like, let's be realistic. Like, can I get this thing? I'm like, I'm smart, but that doesn't count when you're a culinary student. That has nothing to do with that. It's more like whatever they can give you, and they most likely can't give you that. So I'm like, you know what? Let me look within the realm of CUNY and see what I can get. So I said, okay, Kingsborough, and then my GPA had dropped because I failed the test because I was just not failed the class. I was not in the right space. So that's when I also made my decision to move on. And I said, you know what? Let me see what Kingsborough has to offer. They were like, they'll take me automatically as long as I say that I'm going to stay there. I said, okay, what's the worst it could be? Besides being the last stop on the train and the last stop on the bus, what
It's
else?
far.
And then after the last stop on the bus, you still got to walk. So that's a whole other thing. But it's a beautiful campus. So I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I pray on it and let's see what happens. So I go there because I'm like I said, you also have to remember chefs don't make that much money. And in 2010, the minimum wage wasn't 15 yet. That's still 9.75 an hour or something like that, like around that range.
That
And
and we were just coming out of the recession, so it was
reception,
yeah.
exactly. So when we come out of reception, when I graduate from high school, so that's why I was an accountant. I said, damn, I said, I'm not gonna get an internship because I want to be one of the top four. I've always been like an overachiever. So I knew I would want to be at Ernest and Young, or I would start my own private boutique firm. And the funny part about it is when I thought I was gonna start my boutique firm, it was to help small businesses do their bookkeeping because I know that they charge them way
Mm.
too much. So that's what my idea was. I would go work for one of these big firms and then go help businesses do their bookkeeping. That was my idea. Like that's what I thought I was gonna do. And so after like all those programs were gone, there was no more shadowing at these places because I think what's the one that went down? I forgot the big one that went down was one of the ones I was like set to go to when they collapsed. They did the big scandal and everything. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I literally planned my life around finance. And I know people still need finances done, but they might not trust me. So it
Yeah.
was like a
No,
catch 22. I can make money, but I'm like, are they gonna take me seriously? So that was like a big thing when I was like thinking about like what I was gonna do. And like I said, if you don't make enough money to pay for your tuition back, you shouldn't go to that school. Lehman Brothers,
that's yeah. Yeah, Rodney,
that's
absolutely right.
real. If you know, I'm just being honest, guys. If you're gonna be a doctor, we know you're gonna make $100,000. So yes, take out the student loans you have to do because that is very important. Lawyers, all those things that make a lot of money. Now, not to say that you can't make a great, hey, how you doing? Not to say you can't make a good amount of money being a chef. However, we know it is hard to get into those executive chef positions. It's hard to be menu planning or overseeing regional manager. It's hard to be those things because those people keep those jobs. So it's hard to be that person. We all can't be the chef for Twitter. We all can't be the chef for Google. So some of us have to be the prep cook at the local restaurant, which is fine, but don't kill yourself with the expenses of being of the school when you can just like You can go to less school for cheaper. And I met amazing people.
Yeah.
I met amazing people. My teacher, she was the pastry chef of the Waldorf Astoria. You know, my one of my favorite teachers that I still take contact with to this day, Chef Deutsch. He's actually the head of Drexel University's culinary program for food studies.
I know.
He
Yeah.
came and helped me fix my shop. He's actually also on the board for 16 Handles. He opened 16 Handles. My other
Yes.
chef, Jay Rojak, he has the oldest chocolate company in Brooklyn. That's who I learned like chocolatiering from. I learned from the oldest chocolatier in Brooklyn. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything else. And then when I got to City Tech, my teacher was my pastry chef was the pastry chef of the year, for 2 consecutive years. So that was my mentor when I was in school. So I wouldn't trade that for any amount of money.
Yeah, I wanted us to go down that rabbit hole just because I wanted you to say that. Because I think because I think you looking at. I mean, I'm from Jersey, so like Hudson Community College. Yeah, there's a lot of dexterity that these programs have, and from what we are hearing from you, the hungry, tenacious, seriousness of students who go into these programs understand the value and the sort of necessity of utilizing every tool at your disposal. And a lot of local, amazing, your point, chefs that are actually making the mechanism of our industry work, give their time and sort of pour into community-based programs. So I just want you to say those words because I want us to sort of expand our expectation around, or sort of our imagination on what the possibilities of culinary school is, and don't sort of dismiss it out of hand because there are so many pockets of brilliance that happen on these amazing smaller programs.
Yeah, there are. Look at me. I actually went back and taught a class. So so I went to Kingsborough, and when you go to Kingsborough now, which is amazing, this happened. I was like, I want to be so one of my things on my vision board was to be on a billboard. So I want to be on a billboard, specifically Macy's billboard, but that's a whole other thing because they have the ramp that goes back and forth. So I specifically want to be on Macy's billboard, but we're gonna work on that. So I was like, I want to be on a billboard, but I want to be on a big poster that people will see me all the time. Put in the universe. Kingsborough calls me and says that, we were looking for somebody to highlight, and when we called everybody in the previous classes, so many people mentioned your name. I said, really? They said, yeah, a lot of people mentioned your name, and we want to honor you by putting you on the wall towards the culinary program. So there's a wall that you walk towards to our kitchen. So there is literally a jumbo poster-sized picture of me at Kingsborough. So you can see that I went there. Yes, I am the student there. It's a big picture of me. And it was like surreal because I just like think of it, and I just turned 30, so I was thinking of all the things that just like I was just like manifesting. And like you said, don't look at these schools as mediocre, because now look at who you met. Like I'm on my rising point, and you know me from going to Kingsborough, from going to City Tech, in the regular class, just like you guys, paying $4,000 to go to school. And I didn't break the bank, and I was able to take out some extra money so that I could focus. Everybody knows culinary school, you cannot have a job. You literally have to go to school and go home, because by the time you do those 6-hour classes 5 days a week, you're tired, and nobody wants to hire you. So you need a little bit of extra money for cushion to get your Metro card or whatever you need to get back and forth, especially in the city. So you're just like, I was able to do that and still not. I had what my debt for school is $16,000. That's not.
That's awesome.
Total debt I had $16,000.
That's a semester. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's only because I started over, and when I started over, I timed out of Pell because I had to get an extra semester, so I had to pay for the last 2 semesters. That's it. So literally I had to pay for 1 year of school.
Okay. I want to. Oh, okay. I want to pivot here because I think that you given us a lot to think about. I thank you very much for sort of going down that rabbit hole with me because I think it's an important one to sort of like lift up. But I would love it if we could sort of talk a little bit about doing business in Harlem. I know you on the Culinary Council for Harlem Eat Up. I know
Yes.
that you take operating a business in Harlem very seriously. And I would love if you just talk a little bit about opening your spot, like sort of the things you have kind of coming up. And because I know there's a project you're working on now for the holidays that you
Yep.
want to talk a little bit about. But if you could just
Mm-hmm.
sort of talk about that sort of trajectory, because I think um, there is especially people like Melba and just this energy in Harlem right now where especially women, disproportionately women, but there's just this sort of energy where stewardship for this community is really sort of
Mm-hmm.
showing up in business practices, and in times like this, especially in the midst of COVID, it's interesting to watch leadership like this sort of flourish and sort of be valuable as best practices. So you just talk a little bit about that would be great.
So you want me to talk about like my part in the beginning, how I opened?
Well, you tell us a little bit about sort of how you decided to open because you sort of saw a necessity for representation in your direct neighborhood. I guess
Mm-hmm.
I wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you sort of shifted from. I mean, you opened a business and you talked about a little bit about struggling a little or sort of
Mm-hmm.
getting the community to buy in. But sort of I think with your work with Harlem Get Up and certainly through this moment, like it just feels like businesses like yours are sort of leading in the neighborhood, right? Like you sort of showing for getting people to invest in supporting local and supporting neighborhood. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a very intentional way of doing business. And I think there's
Yes.
also probably a lot of sacrifice that goes into that kind of model.
Yeah, like I would go. So after I first of all, like I told you guys, it was very hard, and I would cry some days, and I would tell my mom, I'm like, Mom, I'm like, why won't they come? Like, what's the problem? Well, is the stuff not good? And I'm like, no, it's good. Like I try to get people, I can get stuff out. Even that's how I met Marcus. So I met Marcus because he saw me outside, and then that's how I met Marcus. I tweeted him. He came to meet me outside, and then we followed up and met again, like, of course, with Harlem Meetup. And now, of course, now I'm on the board, so he's like a mentor. He's a great mentor to me. So it was just like I thought that one, like people like Melvin, those people, they've already stepped forward and done it for us. There was nobody my age opening up a business. There was nobody 22 opening up a business. And I think that's why they gravitated to me so much because they were like, how old are you? You 20 what? Like you started the first business and you got a shop? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I guess. I don't know what to do. Like when I first opened my shop, I had a hand mixer, a card table in the back, and I didn't even have an oven. So I tell people all the time, if you want to start a business, start with what you got. Don't wait for anything. Nothing can be perfect. I, you know how I got the money for that shop? My grandmother, my nana, let me take out the dividends on her life insurance. So the life insurance gives you dividends. Like when you pay too much, you get when you overpay, you get like money. So that was my $10,000 grant to myself. So she gave that to me. That didn't pay for much. Okay, just so you guys know.
No,
$1,000 was for the paint alone. $1,000 for the paint, okay? And I just chose white. I didn't choose anything else. I for the guys to build the stuff and everything. So it was just like those things. I was like, you know what? We got dots from Amazon, and we put them on the wall. And then my mom ordered a custom Lady Lexis sweet sign. We didn't even have a sign outside. We got a vinyl. It was $10, and we put Lady Lexis sweets on the front, and we just like, you know what? We're gonna paint the outside pink. So we paint the outside pink. Everybody just come inside. So we just did that, and like I said, is it snowballed. Then I was in Harlem Meetup the first year, the inaugural Harlem Meetup. So I have that picture in my kitchen because that like got me into this community of all these other amazing Black people that were just having their own businesses in Harlem that I didn't know about, and it opened my eyes to see like, okay, this is possible. even if it's not happening as fast as I want it to happen, it is possible. So even like Melba, she told me about like how her block was very much drug ridden, and she, 8th Avenue was not the 8th Avenue we know today, and
Yeah.
she stuck it out, and those people that were over there, because 8th Avenue, if you all know, from being born and raised in Harlem, 8th Avenue was not a place to go to. If you didn't know nobody that lived on 8th Avenue, you don't go on 8th Avenue. So that was not a place you were going to hang out in. Besides the rats and all the other places, you just didn't go on that side. So, and like we said, East Side was East Side, West Side was West Side. So East Side people hang out with East Side people, West Side people hang out with West Side people. And it was just like a disconnect. So that those things like Harlem Meetup brought me together with those people to realize like, no, we're all together. We just don't know you're over there because we just don't get over there. So they helped me out. They had a lot of insight, a lot of great advice, a lot of kind words to just make me feel better. People that gave me their phone number so I could just call them, just to say, I'm struggling. I don't know what the hell to do. People that just gave me opportunity. Any opportunity they had for me, they would just give me these opportunities, and they would just always look out for me. So they became my culinary family. So now, like, I have this culinary family, and up until the point like now where I've been on Chopped, I've been featured with Barilla more than a couple times now, through these family connections that have, like I said, become family to me. And since then, I have closed Lady Lexis Sweets, the physical location, because it just became too much. I didn't know how to transform myself to do the next step, and it just became more of a burden to me than it was happiness. Don't get me wrong, love my shop. I grieved my shop like it was like I lost a family member, but it just didn't work. The East Side still was the beast that eventually swallowed me. Just the brick and mortar though, not my soul, right, and not my brand.
Well, that's the other thing, right? I appreciate you sort of saying that in terms of spirit of transparency, but I also think that you still operate on the East Side. You still are.
Yeah, still operate on the East Side,
right? And I think that there's also something really interesting and powerful about, especially I find with pastry brands specifically, the ability to be more dexterous in terms of location. It's fascinating to me, right? Like you don't like the not just digitally, but like the value or sort of the ability to be able to pop up and to sort of be more fluid. Okay, I mean, you started out on a cart, so I mean, there's a tenacity to the work you do. But I think that there's opportunity absolutely to not necessarily be beholden to a brick and mortar space, but to still be the fabric of a to still be part of the fabric of a neighborhood.
Yeah,
I think that
people
really
all the time. They're like, "Lady Lexis, where's your mom?" I'm like, "Oh, we're not together today."
That's right. I think that really gives us a interesting segue into your current project, the one you want to talk to us about for the holidays, and if you could talk about, just go ahead and just give us some.
Yeah. So it's funny because last year, another one of my vision board, I said, you know what? I'm kind of sick of Thanksgiving. I've had a lot of great Thanksgivings. I would like to. My mom and I always thought that at least one year when we were able to be in a good state of like finances in the business spot, we would do giveaways for like Thanksgiving and holidays because we just feel like, it's a lot. Like we would even give away our food at the end of the night. So we had our baked goods. We would give it around to local people. I would give it around to homeless people. I would just go around and I know where they were and I would just leave it there so that they would have some food, some fresh baked biscuits or something like that for the next day. So it's funny because we would do that a lot. So I was like, you know what? I really want to do something that I can help my neighborhood a little bit better because if you guys don't know, East Harlem is definitely a food desert and it's definitely one of the poorer neighborhoods of like this area. So it's very much desolate now, especially since Pathmark is gone. It's really, really different. And it's getting bad because especially the drugs in the area, whatever. But positive note, still people live here and we're still thriving and trying. So I said, well, you know what? A friend of mine came to me and said, I want to give out turkeys for Thanksgiving. And I'll give out 150 meals. I said, okay, well, you know what? I can call my chef friends up and I can tell them to cook. And then we can give some food too. He was like, really? I said, yeah. I said, I'll tell my chef friends to come over, or cook me something up, put in some packaging, and then the people could take the meals, for their Thanksgiving. So at least they won't just have a turkey; they'll have sides too. Because I'm like, you just want a turkey. Some people can't cook other things, so they need sides. So I was like, let's get them some sides. So I reached out to like Red Rooster. I reached out to all my chef friends that are so gracious to me, and I was like, you know what? Let's do something. And everybody came through for me so well. It was so, like, it was just amazing. It was amazing. I can't even tell you how grateful I am. So then we were like, you know what? Let's do another one for Christmas. It was like, let's do one for the before everybody goes for the Christmas break, and let's try to do another giveaway. But not turkey because it's not a thing. But we said, well, let's just give out 150 meals, at least 150 meals. So let's start there, and then let's you know, build on that. But I wanted to obviously do it in East Harlem. So I did it literally right across the street from where my shop used to be at on 124th and Madison, right by Marcus Garvey Park, just give out all the food. And I mean, the line was so long, we ran out of food. So this time I want to be able to feed those people and some more. And he was so great to help me out with the other stuff, and they donated the food. So this time around, what I'm asking everybody to do is, even if they could just donate monetary, or they donate the meal. So if they donate the meals already packaged, like a packaged meal if you're a chef and you want to donate a meal already together in a container. If you don't have the containers, the monetary funds that we're getting will buy the containers. So we'll give you containers as well. That's not a problem. And we just really need you to drop it off the location. Because I was doing it last time and I was out there getting all the food, and it was a lot for me, okay? I drove to a lot of good chefs that were really helpful, but I can't do both, guys. So I can't drive around and then bring the stuff. Or if you want to volunteer and go pick up the foods for me, that's also welcome too. We'll set up at the same location on 124th in Madison so that everybody can be able to get it. And then I want to just give that out. Like, I was like, warm meal, people don't realize, like, even your neighbor, your best friend right now is COVID. Like, they might have lost their job. They might need that warm meal. Your friend. Like, I've had so many people when I was giving out the turkeys that I knew the people that were like, yo, I don't have a job. Where's the next one? And I was telling him, so my friend did it, Rain Check Live. You can check him out. He's doing another one with me. We're doing it together. But he did them all around the boroughs. And then he did one in Manhattan, one in the Bronx, one in Brooklyn, and then I believe one in Queens. So then this one, again, we're going to do together in Queens. I mean, in Harlem, sorry, in Harlem again. I'm not sure he's doing it again, but you can check his Instagram out to see the other places. But I'll, of course, show on mine, where you can get it from. But yes, so I'm asking everybody to donate monetary funds, ingredients. If you have ingredients, we're welcome to that, because we'll take them and then we'll fix them up and figure it out. Or if you're going to donate your time, or like I said, if you're a restaurant or a caterer, if you can donate already packaged meals, because we just don't want to play with them because of COVID. We would prefer them to already be packaged and we can just give them out so that they can reheat them. That would be greatly appreciated. Even if you're going to donate like 10 pounds of chicken, go to Costco and give us the chicken or whatever you want to do. That's perfectly okay with me. You just have to DM me, and we can get working on how you guys can work with us.
Awesome. So give us a framework of time. Like, what, like, is this on Christmas, or what's the date for?
Okay, so it's December 21st. We're asking that everybody at least give us money, funds, or whatever type of way they want to contribute by next Friday. So I believe that is the 18th. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, the 18th. I know, right? I'm like, is that I don't have no calendar up, which is so bad. That's so bad.
No.
But I believe it's the 17th or the 18th.
Next Friday would be the 18th.
Right, so that we have enough time to prep and then create the meals for everybody. And if you're a chef and you want to help me prepare the meals, because I'm going to prepare the meals this time. If you want to help me prepare the meals in my kitchen, I have a kitchen in East Harlem at Hot Bread Kitchen. You can come with me and help me prepare the meals on that Sunday. So we're more than likely prep Saturday and Sunday for the meals, for whatever you can do. Even if you could clean chicken or clean stuff, make rice, whatever you want to contribute, we're okay with that. I would be so greatly appreciated. That's what I really need from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've been hearing a lot of people talk about wanting to, like, opportunities to volunteer, like, wanting to just, I think your point about this moment, about people sort of who you know going through really hard times right now. One of the most amazing things to do when times are a little hard is to sort of get outside yourself and help someone else. So if you are listening to this and you are, a chef able-bodied or you have resources, Chef Lex is telling you she is a perfect opportunity to come on uptown and cook some meals for some folks and give them deliciousness this holiday season. So please follow Chef Lex here on Instagram. You can DM her here. Um, Money, please, by next money or resources directly donated or like secured by next Friday, December 18th. And then come on over because she's going to be working that weekend to get these meals out on that Monday.
Yeah.
So awesome. Yes. I think that there's sometimes we feel that like this, like the movement work has to be so large outside ourselves. And I think it's really what you're talking about, right? Like, what is it, the specific thing that you could physically take on? Like you can affect change 100, you feed 150 people out of nothing, out of just force of will. That is transformational.
Yeah. It's just small, like, and I was thinking about that. I was like, damn, 150 meals is not enough. I was like, you know what? 150 meals is still 150 meals. Like, that's still that could potentially be at least 100 people. Even if the family feeds, like, it will be 150 people, but a family of 4 can all eat one night. If you really think about that, we take for granted the little things. Like, I'm like, even me going to the store and buying food that I can, like, I've been out of the fridge for the past week, and I've been able to go buy food at the store, buy ready-made food. I'm like, could I imagine if I wasn't able to have money to go buy food, like ready-made food? Like, that's a thing for people. People don't have cash to buy that food. So I was like, you know what, this will work. I said, don't worry. So there's supposed to be some produce coming as well. We're supposed to get some produce and everything from this donor, and then we're supposed to give like these already made meals, so they have an already made meal.
Awesome. Yes. I'm so excited to sort of watch you work and watch you move through the world. I find it interesting you made the parallel to being a graduate high school in the midst of the pandemic. I mean, in the midst of the recession of 08, 09. I think it's so interesting to sort of see you sort of kind of come full circle in this moment. And I'm wondering if you just could sort of leave us with, like, I mean, we're sort of getting close to the hour mark. I want to just thank you so much for your time. I don't know if I want to leave room if anybody has any specific questions. Certainly drop them down. But I mean, you've been so luscious with your answers, so I feel like you maybe answered a lot of people's questions. But I really would love it if we could finish off, because I think that there's something really interesting about your point about possibility, and I think that your point about young people, especially culinary students, or people kind of coming to this work in this moment who maybe aren't seeing possibility, because your point about culinary schools, right now all your internships are done, right? Like where you going? Restaurants aren't offering externships, that kind of thing. I wonder if you have any insight into how to kind of keep positive or keep hopeful. As someone who's sort of been through moments that force you to sort of recalibrate your expectation.
Okay, so I know I have colorful answers. So just so you guys know, literally 2 weeks before the pandemic shut down, I was on Chopped Sweets first season. I thought that everything was gonna be a-okay for me. This is a year out for me of closing my shop. I was like, oh, everything's gonna work out. I'm gonna be back on top. This is gonna be piece of cake. No pun intended, but piece of cake. I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna work out. COVID happens, and everything that I planned for was gone. Every interview, every catering, everything, every possibility I thought, because they didn't know what was going on. So in that time, I was able to think like, well, what do I want to do? And I had to think back to those moments of like when like you said, when you have your calling, all the things I've accomplished since then, no matter how small it was, I was like, you know what? I've done a hell of a lot in the past 7 years. Like more than most people can say that they've done in their lifetime. I'm like, you know what? This is pretty amazing. Like, I had my first whole business, a brick and mortar space. before the age of 30 years old. I said, I need to just relish in those moments and realize that, you know what? I did it once, I could do it again. And like Marcus always likes to remind me, you're young and you have time to do it again. So, and it doesn't matter how old you are either. So, but yes, he's like, you're young and you have time. You don't have to freak out. You have time to do it again. So I have time to do it again. And I'm excited to try it again. So when you guys think of like all the things that you just can't figure out what to do, where to go, how to proceed, do other things that you love to do. Because they actually have to help your mind go back. So if you guys notice my wall, I actually did this wall myself. So it's like, it's glittery, it's everything. That was my therapy. So that was what I did during this time to really like reflect and just took my time and did it. And it was just like, it's just a way for me to realize like, you know what? Life is as simple as painting this wall. Take your time, map it out, and then you're going to get there. So just map it out. You're going to get there.
Absolutely. Oh, yep. This has been so good, Lexis. I'm so glad to meet you and just is so inspired by your general tenacity. You seem to be a tenacious young woman, and to watch you sort of move through all the ebbs and flows of this industry is super dope. Chef Nina Curtis will be with us next week. She's saying congratulations on your Chopped appearance.
Thank you.
I'm going to go now and look and try and find that episode to watch myself. But again, y'all, we have
Tough Cookies, episode 6, Tough Cookies.
Okay, absolutely. I'm going to jump on and try and find that episode right after this. But you all, we've been talking with the wonderful chef Lexis Gonzales. You can please slide into her DMs if you're interested in helping her next week with this wonderful fundraiser she's doing to give delicious hot meals to folks in our neighborhood, financially, physically, or like tangibly in terms of ingredients. All help is welcome. So you can just write in her DMs here, and also look for her episode on Chopped. So I just appreciate your time, Lexis.
Thank you guys. Yes, and subscribe because I have some big things coming up soon. So make sure you follow me because I have some good things coming up.
Now, which site should people? So people should follow your Instagram, but then your website also
right now, is under reboot right now. So yes, okay. Chef Lexis.
Okay, so just
monetary. Monetary.
Yes.
Awesome.
So Nina Curtis, who you should know just in general, you should tune in next week because we're going to be talking to her. She's a brilliant chef out of California, but she's saying if people out of state, I think if people out of state and can't physically help, sort of DM it Alexis and sort of getting information on donating funds will probably be the best way, because every dollar probably will help you get ingredients and PPE
and the containers to put the food in. Because we know containers aren't cheap. But the containers to put them. Yes.
Also, containers. Also, I mean, again, tiny times of COVID, you physically, PPE and all like you out there physically handing out stuff. So just all those little touches that you're gonna need dollars for. So absolutely. Just slide into her DMs and ask all questions.
Yes, I will.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. See you guys later. Thank you.
So good. Just sign into Chef Lex's Instagram account and sort of donate or show up and help her cook next week. And then also tune in with me next week because I'm going to be talking to the brilliant Chef Nina Curtis. And then also tune in later on today, 3:00. Kayla is on with the brilliant, iconic Tony Tipton Martin. So I know I'll be tuning in at 3, but then I'll personally see you guys next week. So thank y'all.